Welcome everyone to the Reading Writing Corner. This is your host, Leanne. And I want to say, if this is your first time here, pull up a chair, sit down, and let's talk about The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. If this is if you're returning, welcome back. We are going to read this. We are going to talk about this standalone story because it is not part of a series. Very few and far in between standalones that I have read. This is part of my May 2024 TBR that I drew. You can of course watch the video already, and if I remember, I'll link that somewhere down below for you guys if you wish to watch it. About where I draw out which books I'm going to read for May of 2024. Great. Now about the story. The Great Gatsby is considered a classical tale of a young man and his love for a woman even after 5 years apart. It's classical. And it's considered like a very good book. So, what made me read this book? I have had read this book during my high school years and college, and I wanted a refresh view of it because it's been a long time since I've it's been a long time since I've read this book, and I have seen one of the movies that came out for it, or the movie for it. So it's been a long time, and I wanted a refresher on it. So here is a little bit about it before the blurb of the actually, here's a review. Not the review. I don't really know what to call it, but anyways, this is a summary, I guess. Narrator Nick Carraway moves to New York City to make his fortune in the bond market and is drawn into the extravagant parties of his Long Island neighbor, the mysterious, rich, lovelorn Jay Gatsby. Now, the story of the fabulously wealthy Jay Gatsby and his love for the beautiful Daisy Buchanan has been acclaimed by generations of readers, but the first edition contained a number of errors resulting from Fitzgerald's extensive revisions and a rush production schedule. So this edition here that I have, based on the Cambridge Critical Text, restores all the language of Fitzgerald's masterpiece, drawing on the manuscript and surviving proofs of the novel, along with Fitzgerald's later revisions and correction. This is the authorized text, The Great Gatsby, as Fitzgerald, as intended. I actually went and looked to see more about this, and apparently this is a rare book copy. I didn't know that until after I started underlining texts in here. I didn't tab it, but as you can see, I did highlight a lot of stuff that these are all people's names that were mentioned, and I was highlighting a lot of them. So, there's that. So, The Great Gatsby is about a man trying to make his way in life that happened to move next door to a young man with extravagant parties to try and reunite with the love of his life. It focuses on the events that pieced together the story of the two young star-crossed lovers and the unwilling in-between man, which was Nick Carraway, by the way. Nick Carraway was really unwilling inside of this. The setup of the narrator was quick and simple, but the details of the three main characters was a little more thorough. Most of the other side characters were briefly touched upon, as the story's main focus was about Gatsby. The motives were slow to reveal themselves to the narrator. Like, for the longest time, he had no idea what was The Great Gatsby all about, or why he was throwing all these extravagant parties. I suppose for the age of jazz and high living luxury lifestyles, the people reacted to situations the way they should, according to those that lived during the 1920s and 1930s. I wouldn't know. I didn't live there in that time period. And the people that I do know that are old enough, well, I don't know anyone that's old enough to live in that time period. Like, my grandfather was born in the 1945s. So, after the 1930s, but nothing before that. Did this live up to my expectations? It was not as profound as I remember it being, or perhaps it was never profound to begin with. The whole story happened in the summer and dealt with infidelity and dishonest people. and the struggles of life back in the day. I don't really see why it's so highly touted, because it's a classical, and I don't understand really why. The love story in it was twisted, and there was a lot of bad stuff to happen, and nobody really got a happy ending. There was no happy ending in this. I don't know what ones you were reading if you thought there was a happy ending in this. There is no happy ending. Which character did I relate to the most? No one. And there was really no secondary standout character either. They just didn't stand out at all. What was more important, the characters or plot? The whole book was about a character called Great Gatsby. There was no real plot to it. It was just about him and why he was starting these parties. And that was literally all it was. There was only one point of view, and it was first person. It did not affect my reading, besides the fact that it took 8 pages to get the narrator's name. Like, I need to know who's talking. Who am I? Why am I seeing through your lens of view? You got me Caraway as the last name, but what about your first name? You get it eventually. So, I'm going to leave this with you at the end of this non-spoiler review, should you go and read this story. If you like classical literary fiction that revolves around a single person and his love for a woman he has held on for years, even after going to war, and worked himself from being a poor person to being a rich person using sleazy ways of doing so, then I would say go ahead and do so. If you want to read what the Great Gatsby is all about, you go ahead and read that. Okay, so if you think I deserve a like, comment, or lovely subscriptions before you leave, because you don't want to be spoiled, because if you've never read the Great Gatsby, or if you've never seen the movie, go ahead and do so down below. Now, I'll see you all later in the next non-spoiler part, if that's what you watch. You get to meet main characters, side characters, important main characters. There are not many named that stayed relevant in the book, and I only list off the ones that aren't named and stay relevant within the story. Sorry, there's something wrong with this, and I just wanted to make sure it was correct. Okay, you have Nick Carraway, the narrator. He's 29 years old, He's 29 years old, trying to get into the bonds business in New York. He happened to move next door to a young man named Jay Gatsby and was there for the summer ride unwillingly of everything that happened during that summer. And he moves away. In the end, he moves away. Okay. Jay Gatsby, or as his original name was, James Gatz. He was a young man that was poor and was conscripted to the army, and he happened to fall in love with a rich woman and wanted to be rich for her so he could be with her, because he felt that was the only way. He did not come back in enough time to save her from getting married, so yeah. There's that. He was killed by George Wilson because Wilson believed he was driving the car that killed his wife. I did not write down his wife's name. Myrtle, there it is. Okay, I did. George Wilson, I did write down her name, was a garage and gas station owner, and his wife was being unfaithful to him, and he didn't realize that until he found the dog collar. And when he did find the dog collar, he locked his wife up and said, "We're moving away and starting over." Myrtle Wilson, she was having an affair with Tom Buchanan. She was just an ordinary woman, and he had an apartment for her. He got her a dog, got her fancy dresses, because, I don't know, I guess that attracted him in some way, shape, or form, instead of his fancy wife. And it doesn't really, well, it's clear that she was running away from her husband because she didn't want to leave with him, but she saw a car that, Tom Buchanan was driving earlier, coming by, and she was running out to it, hoping that it was him, but it wasn't. And she was killed instantly when she got hit by said car. Okay, Tom Buchanan married Daisy, Nick's cousin. He was unfaithful to her, but remained married to her because back in that day, that's what they did. They had a child. He was the reason Wilson killed Gatsby because he wanted him dead for trying to take Daisy away from him. So he sat there and said, "Old chum, this person owned the car. Go to him. I'm not the one you want." Daisy Buchanan was married to Tom Buchanan because she wanted her life to make sense and could not wait for Jake Gatsby to return to her. She knew he was cheating, but she couldn't do nothing about it. And then she did cheat for a while herself with Jake Gatsby. But in the end, she decided to stay with her husband. She was driving the car that killed Myrtle because she was just trying to get away from her husband and just trying to get away from the pain of it all. It was an accident, but instead of sticking around, she continued driving on, and she never confessed that she was the reason why Myrtle was killed. And that's why Todd Buchanan, redirected, the girlfriend I was seeing and cheating on with is dead by the woman I'm married to, although we don't know if he knows that she did it. As far as he knows, Jake Gatsby did it, and that's why he pointed a finger at him. It's like, go away. Me and my wife just want to be, we were going to move and want to be our own people. There was one more person in here, but not really all that important. And it was Daisy's friend who was a champion of something or another. Oh, it was a Baker, something Baker, and she was a champion of, I think, something. I don't remember. She's not really all that important anyways, because she just comes in to stir up a lot of trouble and stuff. There's one POV, and of course it was Nick, because it's first person narrative. So you only get his side of everything. And that's it, you know. My favorite character was no one. I didn't really like any of the characters. Nick was bland. He had no real personality. Daisy tried to make her life exciting. Her friend knew what was going on, and she was also a liar because she lied about a lot of stuff. Yeah. Tom was cheating on his wife all the time, and Jake Gatsby was a desperate man in love, and he just went about it all wrong because he got into doing behind doors type of shady deals to make his money, to throw his extravagant parties, which he stopped doing after he finally got reconnected with Daisy, because he wanted to just be with Daisy. Just be with Daisy, you know. My most disliked character was actually Tom. He was a manipulator, and he did what he could to keep his life exactly the way it was. He didn't even regret having a hand in ending a life. He didn't regret that Jay Gatsby died because of him. He didn't. And I guess the reason why he didn't is because he actually thought Jay Gatsby was the one who hit Myrtle, who was the person he was cheating on and thinking about leaving his wife for. So, all in all, he just didn't care. Or at least what we saw of it, he didn't care. We don't know if he actually did or not, but just the way he was portrayed seems like he didn't care. It was told in chronological order with several instances of flashbacks to explain how Jake Gatsby was shaped and how he met Daisy at appropriate language for the time period it was set within. There was not a lot of foreshadowing or even really any suspense in this book because it didn't have any of that really. I mean, I guess the only suspenseful thing that was really happening within this is the fact that it was building up for, would Tom leave for this woman? Would Daisy actually confront Tom for this woman? And what was Nick gonna do about it all? The background was explained enough to understand all the important characters in the story except for Nick. We barely got to know anything about him. All we know is that his dad told him something that he took to heart, and that he was a Caraway who went to school and wanted to get into the bonds. Really, that's it. The title of the book was about the man the story was written about, and he called him great because he threw a lot of parties, I guess, and he was trying to be extravagant, but I didn't really see anything that made him officially great. The cover of the book had city lights in the background and with the face of a woman. This looks like it's actually an amusement park. I don't know if it's on a pier or not with oceans. Can't really tell, but this is what my text looks like. So there's that. What stood out as memorable was the length one man would go just so that he could reconnect and possibly be with the woman he loved, because he found out where she lived, moved across from her with a ocean in between, or a lake, whatever you want to call it, or whatever it was, and threw parties hoping to entice her over to said party so he could see her again. And then he stopped throwing the parties so he could just be with her. And you know, he actually inserted himself into her life and everything like that. And it's just, he was worried about her. Stood outside all night watching her house after the incident happened and to make sure she was okay. And all that lovely stuff. He loved her, but I guess she didn't really love him as much as he loved her, because she didn't want to leave her comfortable lifestyle. My favorite passage from the story is Gatsby beloved in the green light, the organic future that year by year recedes before us. It eludes us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch out our arms further, and one fine morning, so we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the future, into the past, into the future. Yeah, that's my favorite passage. Nothing else really called out to me. And honestly, that looks like, I don't know. I have a publication afterwards. And then the text. Yeah. Oh, Gatsby believed in the green light. So yeah, I wrote that wrong. Believed in the green light. The orgastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch out our arms further, and one fine morning, of course, there's like doot, means, you know, we're gonna pass away. So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. We're always trying to strive to go forward, to move forward, to live our lives. My favorite quote: "Don't believe everything you hear, Nick," he advised me, which was Tom Buchanan. But everything he had heard about Tom Buchanan, Daisy, and Jay Gatsby was, for the most part, real. Except for a lot of stuff that Jay Gatsby said was embellished, because he embellished stuff. What I thought about the ending of the book? It was sad. No one was happy at the end of the story. The woman Tom was cheating on died. Daisy's man that she wanted to cheat on Tom with died. And Nick left to try his hand at something after realizing that no one had cared for Gatsby besides a random dude who had lived in his house, Nick, and Gatsby's father. Like a great man that he was, nobody really cared about him. Because he just threw parties and they were just arriving. They didn't care. They didn't care at all. What book did it remind me of? The sad, lonely life most people lead in every day and age, such as Makiko's Diary by, I'm sure her name is Mikiko. Mikiko's Diary, a merchant wife in the 1910s, Kyoto. It was Nakano Mikiko. That's who it was. Nakano Mikiko. This book right here. That's what it reminded me of. It was translated with introduction and notes by Kazuko Smith. So, there you go. This book is a standalone. And I rate it as a 3. Because I really don't see the appeal of it. It had romance, but it wasn't very good. I guess I'm not fit to read high-end based in our timeline type of books about romance and how they end, because I mean, like, that's usually how stuff ended in that time and day and age, and it's not as thrilling or great as people would think it is. Anyways, if you think I deserve a like, comment, or even your lovely subscription, drop it down below. I will see you next illusion.